Okay, so well, how do we how do we tackle this one? Uh, Obviously, Hideo Kojima is a big friend of Jeff Keighley. There are lots of big hugs happening on that stage as as Hideo's new game was revealed. It's called OD, and we saw a little bit of footage. The question is whether it's actually all game stuff or not. It's just not clear, to be honest. It's just a series of bizarre talking heads. I think it's fair to say the quality of the rendering of the talking heads was absolutely phenomenal. Also interesting that there was disclosure of a move to a different engine. They're moving to Unreal Engine 5 and MetaHuman technology to produce what we saw today. There's still the fact that it is seemingly an Xbox collaboration. We'll talk about disclosure on Xbox a bit later. Alex, what were your thoughts on this? Because I don't know, obviously Kojima is an enigma. He likes to present early viewings of his content in an enigmatic fashion.
Very enigmatic here.
Yeah, there's not really a huge amount we can take away from this. Power the Cloud. It was mooted.
It's groundbreaking, to say the least. It's breaking new ground. So I like Hideo Kojima's body of work. I think the man is very interesting. But this did absolutely nothing for me. Mainly because it was contextless, and to me it looked like render test footage. With the whole point of like, do you remember when they showed off? Well, it's not even that, because that was like kind of like a tech hype trailer. What's the name of that?
Quantic Dream.
Quantic Dream. Thank you. It showed
the PS3 demo.
The PS3 demo was just like faces, just like faces. But here, they were still like had the raw capture lighting. You could see it in their eyes, for example, like where they just probably mapped some specular there that made it look like that. And as a result, I just see these people saying what appears to be gibberish into a camera, and I just don't know what this is. Are these people talking to the cloud? Like, I just don't feel anything. So, here, I'm very interested in whatever the end product is. And the fact that it is moving to Unreal is interesting. I'm very curious as to why. Maybe it has to do with the fact that it plugs into the cloud in a certain way, and Unreal's already set up for that on the back end for Microsoft. Maybe it has to do with behind the scenes, you can only use Decima for X and X titles. It cannot be for Xbox, etc. And that is interesting in itself, but we'll only see what that means realistically when it comes to the game being shown off. Here, the idea that metahumans are maybe being used to drive the rigs that are shared across all these different characters, that seems reasonable, but it's also just a lot of nothing. And they go on stage and have an interview, doesn't say too much. Jordan Peele comes out, who I also really, really like. Unfortunately, also doesn't say too much. So I don't have really any big opinion on this at all as a result.
Except the rendering looks nice.
Except, presuming it's rendering. Like, it could just be test render footage. Like, it could actually be rendered out as a file, which you can do in Unreal. So that doesn't really tell you too much. Yeah.
Well, how do you top that? I'm just thinking, actually, occasionally developers or publishers get in touch and ask us to take quotes and put them on the packaging, and a whole lot of nothing. Alex Vitale and Digital Foundry. That'd be a great one for this one. Oliver,
sorry.
Do you have any additional takeaways?
Well, initially, I mean, the quality of the facial rendering is so high that initially I was like not sure that I was looking at a video game asset, and it was really took like the first two characters look almost pristine, especially little details like the teeth. But then in the depth of field, I could see just the tiniest bit of aliasing. And then the third character, who is a male who makes more exaggerated facial motions, that I was kind of seeing. I was seeing kind of the blending and all this stuff. I was seeing a little bit of that. So I saw through the illusion eventually, but it was so compelling. Maybe part of that is just because it was a not super high quality encode. But it's extremely impressive stuff with MetaHuman. Obviously, weirdly, Death Stranding 2 is also using MetaHuman despite not using Unreal, because MetaHuman kind of separately licensed before the Unreal acquisition. So presumably they have some experience here. But unfortunately, that's all we're seeing.
Yes.
In terms of what they talked about, they said it is a game or sort of transmedia. Or it's a new form of media, that kind of thing.
It's worrying, isn't it?
It's a Strand game. It's a Strand game.
Yeah, I kind of think that it's maybe not the kind of like big AAA effort for Xbox that a game like Death Stranding is for PlayStation, if you know what I mean. It's something different, and probably something that's not completely within the confines of traditional gaming. Maybe something like a Quantic Dream style title. I know we mentioned that before.
Yeah.
It's not too clear.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, the issue is that I really like Hideo Kojima games, but I really don't like the way he does narrative. I just find it incredibly dull. What can I say? And this has been the case since Metal Gear Solid 2, where, it just seems really self-indulgent as opposed to entertaining. That's been my take on it. And, it seems to be that he's doubling down on this sort of narrative side. Now, maybe this is heresy to a big bunch of people.
It is probably, right? Yeah.
But, the point is that, I'd like to have discovered more. Maybe it's just the fact that we're years away from this project actually materializing. I'd be really curious to know what the actual integration with the cloud is, why you need the cloud to do this game. What is the cloud doing? I find that really quite interesting, because there are some really... we're moving into the age of AI and machine learning. There's going to be a huge amount of opportunity for new gameplay that is based on AI, that does require, the cloud basically to do it. And whether that's involved here, we just don't know. It's very, very early days. A bit bizarre to focus so much on this, but I guess it is, Hideo Kojima, mate of Jeff Keighley.
Probably that's why.
A lot of airtime given to something where, it remains an enigma.
It's for me, it's also a little bit like, so I like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 and the first game. And I thought the gameplay concepts behind Ground Zero and, eventually what would become 5, and Death Stranding is very interesting gameplay concepts itself too. But the kind of semi-obsession with getting stars to do things, as in Hollywood stars,
right,
is a little grating to me, because I just keep thinking like, balloon that budget out. Just balloon that budget out. You could get no names, and it could be probably just as amazing, but it wouldn't be as glitzy or as glammy, and it wouldn't make such a great showing maybe at something like this.
Well, I think this is part of an overall strategy that a lot of creators have to actually further legitimize gaming as being on par with motion pictures, and I think that's fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know what you think of that, Oliver.
Well, I think in a lot of cases, actors are not that well suited, in particular for voice roles that might only be doing television or movies, because being a voice actor and giving a performance in the game is quite a different thing. In this case, you literally probably just have facial capture rigs and people delivering a pretty conventional performance, which does map well into this kind of game. But again, it totally remains to be seen exactly what this is, so I really have no further comment.
And even if it is a game.
If it could be described as a game,
the other thing, of course, was the whole Jordan Peele thing, where, he just basically turned up to say, I'm involved, but I'm not going to tell you what it's about. But what I will tell you is there's a bunch of other people involved as well. And then it sort of seemed to talk about goats for some reason.
Yeah, he's the goat.
There's various goats.
On
involved. So interesting, diverting, not especially informative. Nice rendering on the characters. And I guess that's it.